Hey everybody, I'm Mark Edward Lewis from CinemaSound.com, and today we're going to be talking about the closest thing that we've ever heard to the good sound button. You know, where you just hit a button and everything sounds great. Wouldn't that be great? Well, it is in the form of a plugin called Gullfoss from our friends at Sound Theory. Now, if you've watched any of our videos on CinemaSound.com, you know that I'm always telling you that your brain is always lying to you about everything that it hears, and that's because of its sensitivity to speech frequencies, loudness contours, and even the inefficiency of the hearing mechanism itself. Well, this plugin solves all of it in an instant and gives you unprecedented spectral and frequency control like nothing we've ever used before. And it's really easy to use, and I'm going to show you how to use it, but I'm not going to show you how it works. Nobody can show you how this thing works. There's so much horsepower going on underneath the hood. It's incredible, but it's very easy to use. Today we're going to find out if Gullfoss gives us that good sound button on mono and stereophonic sound effects material. Let's roll.
All right, we're here in Adobe Audition where we have a simple mix where we've taken all the sound effects and put them into a session. There's quite a few things, Foley and hard effects. Let's just watch this. You can get a feel for it. And now let's watch it with Gullfoss turned on. And you can hear the difference. It's pretty amazing. And all the beauty of the Foley showing up and all kinds of things, the thump of the hit that's there. It's just all of a sudden you can hear things that you couldn't hear before. So let's dive in and find out how this works. So I've got all the Foley and the sound effects going to a down mix bus where they're basically all being down mixed to stereo so that we can hear it streaming wise for all you all. So we're going to just instantiate Gullfoss on this channel, on this bus, and you can use VST or AU. AU for now for us on Macs, and Sound Theory Gullfoss, and it happily shows up. Bang. There it is. These 5 controls are really the only controls that are there. And how do they work? What do they do? Well, let's see. This recover control basically is, I mean, it does an awful lot of stuff, but the layman's answer, the simple answer is that it boosts frequencies that your brain might want to hear more of that might be not quite as present as we'd wish. Again, it does a ton more than that, but it boosts things that should probably be boosted. Tame is the opposite. It cuts frequencies which your brain and other things might be too sensitive to and might otherwise kind of spoil your mix or your effect. And then the 3 Bs, bias, brighten, and boost. Bias is a setting that allows you to bias between recover and boost if you're using both settings, you know, one a little more recover or otherwise. Brighten is a really great edge, high frequency edge that's added when you're using recover or tame. Just a lot of high frequency power there, especially if you're using tame. And then boost, whether you're using recover or tame or not, basically creates a loudness contour, an intelligent loudness contour, where high frequencies are just unbelievably beautifully and intelligently added, and then low lows super well dealt with as well, boosted. This loudness contour kind of allowing the mids to allow to be the same, and the highs and lows boosted. So I'm going to play this and just add recover. Now we're streaming, so I'm going to use settings that are about double what we would normally use. This is a very subtle process, and just so you can hear on streaming, it's going to be a little more than we would normally use. And you want to do this really after you've done your mix, not while you're mixing. You want to have a great sounding mix and then add Gullfoss. I want to add a 200% effect, which is way more than we should use, but you can just so you can hear it. And you can see this infinite amount of EQ, and it's doing a lot more than EQ, that's happening here, and adding a lot of lows and a lot of low frequencies and high frequencies that, you know, normally isn't present in a standard sound effects mix. Let me turn it on and off for it, and you can hear the difference. And then off. Night and day. So let's try what tame will do. Again, a hugely large setting. Notice how intelligently it's tapering off the transients from the footsteps and the gun foley and all of that. Giving it a lot of mid-range energy. Now we can add brighten since we have so much tame. Check this out. Works both ways. Really useful if you want to add tame and then just add some more high frequencies, which sometimes tame can turn off or attenuate. Now, one of the other cool things is you can use Alt or Option to A-B between settings. That was at 13%. I'm holding down Alt and 13, 0, 13, 0, 200, 0, 200, 0. Really great for A-Bing. I love it. So I'm going to go back to 0. And then Boost, again, as I mentioned, works whether you have tame on or off. So we're going to just make this loud setting here. You can hear the difference. Just those highs and the super lows, and it's being really intelligent about how it's dealing with it, which is super great. For us here in sound effects land, what I would want to do is use the frequency bypass sliders here. And what that means is that here, everything that's to the left is not being processed by recover or tame. We can do the same thing if we grab the ones on the right. And what I want to do is leave everything that's, 80 hertz or so and down alone. I want to really reserve those frequencies for the other stuff that we're going to be using in a mix, like, music being the biggest other one where we're going to have those frequencies down there. I want to leave the effects away. I'll leave Gullfoss out of that. Although Boost will still work, even though these are being bypassed. So don't make the mistake of saying, "Oh, I'm adding Boost," and then it's not going to work down here. It will. Check it out. You can still hear it working down there. But let's add some recover, but then let's add some more tame in particular. I'm going to add some brightness. We've got the Boost going. And I might lower this down just because I want to get some of that thump in there. You can see what it's doing here with the Foley. Just making it crisp and clean. Really beautiful. In fact, I may want to bring the recover down and turn the tame up a little bit more so that it handles some of those really clear transients a little bit more draconian, a little stronger, kind of bring them down. Because we don't want them to poke through too much. It's not a show with meant for Foley. And while there's dialogue going, sometimes we might get a little too much Foley. Let's try this one more time with this setting. Yeah, it's a little bit nicer. I think I am going to bring that recover back a little bit more. But basically, we're just adding this to that sound effects master or whatever master you're trying to do with sound effects. I mean, you can obviously add it on individual channels, but do remember that Gullfoss takes up no small amount of processing power, and you wouldn't want to have too many of these running. It's better just to apply it to a bus and have a great result that way. Let's check this out in the context of a whole mix. All right, here's a scene where we have one of the most difficult things to deal with, which is big sound effects, big music, and big dialogue. Obviously, dialogue has to win in that war, but we want to be able to not have music lose when sound effects need to be story important or immersively important, and we don't want sound effects to lose when music has to be emotionally important. Well, with Gullfoss, we can kind of cheat and get the best of both worlds. So let me just play this for you here with Gullfoss off.
If I am willing to do this, and I have your best interest at heart, then what more will your enemies do when they capitalize on your shortcomings?
All right, so there's a lot of potential problems. Everything's sort of on the razor's edge. Well, let's see if we can add a nice knife edge to the sound effects that doesn't get in our way. Then we're just going to solo this bus here, and let's just listen to it by itself. So this pulsing effect is good. Again, we don't want to get in the way of what was mixed. It needs to be already mixed and sounding great. We just want to kind of enhance it. So what we could do is add boost, which will give it some lows and some high frequencies. With it off or less than the other way. Which is great. And we probably want to add some, mid-range energy that has a lot of control, not just mid-range frequencies, but something that would really be smart about it. And that would be in the tame realm here for these kinds of sound effects. Notice the difference. And maybe some brighten. Being careful because that high frequency wisp might get in the way of sibilance. And now we got a lot of bang on that blast. But I want to show you the difference between using boost to get low frequencies and recover. So notice, let me just, I'm going to hit Option and put that back to 0. Let's turn up recover really strongly. Again, these are like double the settings you would ever use. Notice the difference. In fact, let's turn it way up here. Notice how very reactive this is, as opposed to if we just use boost. It's a lot more linear, a lot more EQ-like with 8 million other cool things that are going on. So for me, for something like this, I'd want something that was more reactive for this moment. So let's go back to the recover. And this is sounding pretty good. Again, being careful with those high frequencies because dialogue has to get over it. And if we have too much high frequency sound effects, it's difficult to hear consonances. All right, so now let's put it all together.
If I am willing to do this, and I have your best interest at heart.
And now let's turn it off. Night and day.
If I am willing to do this, and I have your best interest at heart, then what more will your enemies do when they capitalize on your shortcomings?
Now listen to the Foley. It's all there in a way that you could never hear before, never dream about hearing before without Gullfoss.
All of us at cinemasound.com use Gullfoss all the time. We love it. Take a look at some of the videos here on this website to learn how to use it on all kinds of buses and individual tracks, including dialogue, sound effects, music, and even 5.1 surround. Dope. Until then, we'll see you in post.
Even if you're stuck.